Hey guys, welcome to Blazing Guitars. My name is Blaze Nelson, and here we talk about all things worship, guitar, pedals, all kinds of topics. Today we're going to be talking about 3 tips to help you lead your worship team better, or maybe these are something that you can bring to your current leader if you feel like your team's kind of stuck in a rut, or maybe just looking for different ways to improve. These are 3 areas that I think can be really helpful, especially when leading a team, to just kind of push you guys to the next level. So, point number 1 is to set clear expectations and boundaries for your team. I was in a situation recently where one of our volunteers was showing up either late to practice or not at all to practice. One time he showed up about 10 minutes before church started, and that was well after our rehearsal time. And I felt really stuck because he was a volunteer, and I didn't want to make him feel like I was pressuring him or asking him to do too much. And after that situation kind of got resolved, I realized, oh man, if I set clear expectations, even on volunteer, our church is completely volunteer based, so even in that context I can set these expectations, and not only is that helpful as a band leader, but that helps the other band members thrive and do well because it sets a stage for them to have success in and to work in. So some of the things that we have set up as boundaries is we all show up to band practice on time. I know, especially as musicians, and I struggled with this myself for years and years, especially through college, it's really easy to roll in 10 minutes late. And if you do that consistently, and everybody's in the habit of doing that, 10 minutes becomes 15 minutes. And then before you know it, your whole practice is blown on setup and getting in there and tuning and waiting for the bass player to show up, and just it's easy for you to lose valuable time if clear expectations aren't met. And it's not only helpful for the band and for it to function smoother, but it's also helpful for your team just to know what they're getting into. If you're bringing on a new volunteer, I recently did this, and I just made it really clear, like, here's exactly what I'm expecting of you. Are you able to meet these expectations? And he came back and tweaked a little bit, and we got to a spot where we agreed. So now we have a healthy scenario that we can work in and really, really hopefully thrive in. So that's tip number 1. Set healthy expectations on your team. Tip number 2 is limit your set list. I have a lot of friends who are in worship teams, and I know a lot of people that are playing on a Sunday morning, and a lot of them have set lists that are huge, like over 100 songs in some cases. And what that means is that it can really leave your team. I've been on teams like that before, and it can really feel like, man, I'm rolling in on Sunday, and I'm hoping that we can put this off, and it kind of creates this I prematurely did the things. It creates this environment where everybody's hoping to pull it off. Maybe we can get it up fast enough. Maybe we can get it clean enough to pull it off on Sunday. And that's just not really doing a service to your team. Personally, I really struggle with that feeling of like, man, I don't know how this is going to go. So I prefer to practice, a little bit more. But what can really help in that is to limit your set. And we do about 35 songs. That's our set, is 35 songs. And we have songs that kind of flow in and out. As I said, we've been doing this for almost 7 years. And we really try to keep it to 35, which we do 6 songs on a Sunday. So if you do that math, that means that a song gets played only 9 times a year. And for us, it feels like a lot more because we have to, listen to them and practice them and play them and screw them up and then come back and play them again. But for the congregation, they're only hearing that song 9 times in a year in some cases. So, the congregation isn't sitting there thinking, man, I'm bored of the song, whereas all the musicians can be sitting there thinking, I'm bored of the song. But if you limit your set and are really careful in that, then what that can do is that can create songs that your congregation really latches onto and is meaningful to them. Like that's happened in our church. We only do 35 songs, but those 35 songs are really meaningful to our congregation. We can add new songs. I tend to do it about once a month. And then it kind of goes back to the expectations and boundaries thing. My team knows I'm not going to throw them a curveball. Or if I'm going to throw them a curveball, it's going to happen once a month. And this is also another point, is I usually try to have sets out pretty good in advance, a couple weeks in advance. So that kind of stuff can just really help diminish that feeling of, man, I hope this is going to work and I hope we're going to pull this off. So that's your second point there, is limit your set. And I would even, to add on to that, I wouldn't go over more than 50 songs. If you have 50 songs, I would start knocking off some older ones. And again, your congregation is only hearing them 9 times a year. And that's even for a much smaller set than 50. So really take some time and limit your set. And if you've been going for a long time and if you've been struggling, I'd really suggest you sit down and pick 30 songs and stick with those 30. And yeah, I can't labor that point enough. I think that would just really do, if you guys are stuck, that would really do wonders for your team. So point number 2 is limit your set. Point number 3 is make sure that you give your team resources. So this is one thing that's been really helpful for us. We just recently moved to a new platform that I developed, but we were on worship team for a long time. I know a lot of teams are on planning center. But make sure, especially if you only have 30 songs, make sure that your team has resources to practice those 30 songs. So, for our church, on our platform, I make sure that all the chords are accurate. Me and another team member go through and make sure that all the chords are accurate. We make sure that the versions of the songs we're doing is available to them. We have Spotify playlists with our, the church official Spotify. And these kind of things just really create a feeling for your team, like you're caring for them and you're being intentional with them. I think especially some people, like one of our volunteers, or a lot of our volunteers, this happens with a lot of people, I'm not trying to single anybody out, but I think people can really feel uncared for if they're kind of left in the lurch all the time. And taking an extra step, and I know it's hard at the beginning, onloading or putting up resources for 30 songs can be daunting, or finding chord charts. Doing all that takes work initially up front, but it helps maintaining that work, or maintaining down the road. It helps that a lot. It helps that to go a lot smoother, and it can really make your team feel cared for. So point number 3 was, make sure that your team has the resources that they need, so that they can practice and do well. Our goals as worship leaders is to help our team succeed, and their goal is to help us succeed. We're there as a body to serve each other. So those are my three tips for you. Again, just to run over them real quick. Set clear expectations and boundaries on your team. Limit your set to under 50 songs, and make sure that your team has resources. If you like this video, go ahead and subscribe. If you don't agree with anything that I said or want to have a conversation, feel free to leave a note in the comments and I'll get back to you. Feel free to like and share. And this is something that I'm hoping to do a lot more of, is just to have conversations like this and about gear and worship and all kinds of topics. So if that sounds good to you, and if you want to be a part of this, go ahead and we'll see you next week. So thank you. Have a good day.